All right, well, right now we're going to talk about some health issues right now. We're talking eating disorders that can affect anyone, regardless of their age and race. And Leanne right now is joined by Kath McGow to chat more about serious mental health problems.
Every 62 minutes, at least one person dies as a result of an eating disorder. Clinical pediatric dietitian Kath McGow joins us today to chat about eating disorders in teenagers. Now, whether you have a difficult feeder or an adolescent struggling to meet their calorie intake, using a nutritional-based cereal like Jungle Instant Oats will go a long way to restoring nutritional balance. Kath is here to tell us more about the different eating disorders in teens and what parents can do to help. Kath, so good to have you on the show this morning. Quite an important topic we're talking about today. Do you want to just contextualize for us as a parent, what should you be looking out for when it comes to your teenagers' eating habits, and what are the different types of eating disorders that can be found?
I think one of the critical things is that it's not isolated to just the teenage years. So you'll notice even signs in that kind of tween stage, that early teens. We're seeing more and more children at that age, and not just girls, but also boys. People often think it's just in girls. The type, I think there's definitely a personality that lends towards eating disorders, a bit of an addictive personality, a high perfectionistic personality. And in the past, we were very quick to blame the parents or the home environment, but the research has shown over the years that it's got a lot more to do with the actual person themselves and the way they perceive the world around them, and the way they try and strive for this level of perfection. And an eating disorder is really just a symptom of not being able to feel in control of the world around you in one way that you feel you can control your world. And so you'll notice that these children will kind of play around with different diets, and that's one of the keys. A lot of teens will want to go vegetarian, and that should be a trigger. Now, there is a whole trend towards the green movement, and we want to sustainability and eat sustainable, but you'll often notice quite a lot of obsession around the way that they look at food, the way that they are scared to be around food, not eating with family meals, so avoiding social occasions where food is present. Those are things and signs that you will notice early on that should be a red flag.
Because my next question for you is going to be, are eating disorders learned behaviors, or is it genetic? Is it something that you see, around you as you grow up and then you kind of adopt one, or is it something that you can't really control?
I think there is a genetic component towards the more addictive personality side. So in other words, people use addictions to assist themselves in areas that they find difficult to control, and eating disorder can be one of the addictions. So that might have a genetic component. If you grew up in a home where your mother had an eating disorder or your father had, then you might have picked up some of the habits around that, or you might not be exposed to normal way of eating. So I think it's multifaceted, it's quite complex. It's not just genetics, just environmental. I think it's a combination of, like I said, the own personality of the child, the environment around them, and whether they have a lean-in towards that sort of way.
But how can parents instill a good relationship with food when it comes to their children?
Yeah, and I think that's the critical question, is what can you do early on? And that starts really in your first 1,000 days, so that weaning onto solids and then introduction of new foods into the years. And I think one of the key factors is family meal times, and really food must be fun. Helping your child to understand that you eat because you're hungry and to nourish your body. You don't eat when you're sad or when you're lonely or when you feel out of control. So if you notice that your child has a propensity to want to kind of eat when they are stressed, when they come home from school, for example, it would be a good conversation to have with them, and just to say, are you really hungry, or do you think maybe you're eating because you had a rough day today? And to unpack that a little bit with them, so to really help them to listen to their bodies.
Yeah, well, thank you so much, Kath. I'm sure there's many parents who've identified the symptoms that you were talking about, or certain, ways that their children are reacting towards food. And I think that we've helped a lot of people this morning. Well, eating disorders do not discriminate. They are complex mental health disorders and can affect anyone, regardless of age, sex, or race. And knowing what signs to look out for and how your own behavior to food and exercise could influence your child's attitude towards food is important, and it can make a very big difference in their own life choices.
South Africa's original oat champion now has a range of nutritious, delicious muesli. New Jungle Muesli, available in an exciting variety of flavors.